Is this thing working? Are we live? It kind of looks like we're live. What is going on, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic, whatever day you're watching this. I'm out in the shop right now getting the GSX-R 750 put together, at least getting it ready for the season. Same goes for that GSX-R 600. So I figured I'd bring you guys along for the ride. Probably end up being a bit of a short show as I'm going to be refitting plastics and kind of getting that 600 ready for what is looking like an upcoming video on the best practices for getting your bike ready for the upcoming season. So that's what I'm going to be up to this evening. We've got some updates for bikes as well. So diving into it, by the way, you guys are sitting on the back of the Bonneville as that is going to be my computer stop for today or tonight, this evening, whatever it is. Yeah, so we got the plastics are on the way for the 750. If you're not up to speed, the 750 got dropped, and of course it did, but it didn't get dropped in here. It got dropped right outside of that particular door where the surface really isn't all that smooth, and it absolutely tore up the left side fairing. So we're waiting to get all that stuff in. So yeah, there's that. But yeah, I'm getting basically all the fluids checked with these bikes. I'm nut and bolting everything. And this is one of the things that you got to do every year, especially if the bike's been sitting, say, 2, 3, 4 months. A lot of you guys living up in the north part of the world, if it's snowing and nasty, rainy, whatever it is, your riding season is going to get cut, and that bike's probably not going to see the light of day for a long time. And so for that period of time, for the bike sitting around, stuff can just get weird, like you got to check the fluids, but, you also might want to take a look at, hoses. You might want to take a look at fuel quality, making sure that you're, getting fresh gas into the thing. There's a lot of stuff that can go on while the bike is kind of just sitting around idle. And depending on where you live, rodents can end up being a problem. So this is just an opportunity to strip the bike down, nut and bolt everything, which is to say, just make sure that everything is tight, that there's not any weirdness going on your bike, getting it ready for the season to come up. I found all kinds of stuff in bikes that had sat for any real length of time. And famously, my dad's bike, which is that one right there, had a ton of mud dauber nests in it, but that had sat around for a long time. But it gives you an idea. It's part of best practices. So that's what I'm doing. And I figured I would bring you guys along. So let me check in with you guys. RMAC is in. What is up? Marco is in. What's going on, guys? RMAC saying, missed a couple. Yeah. Itch is in. Good day, sir. Bruce is in. What is up? What is up? Ryan saying, so the old lady did a thing for me on Valentine's Day, you lucky devil. Bruce saying, that's for a different chat, right? Oh, wow. Dude, RMAC got him a Busa. I like it. That is a good thing. Congratulations on that. I think she's really digging the Scout 60 more and thinking about getting herself a Royal Enfield Conti GT. Dude, that is an awesome bike. Bathy's in. Shout out from Puerto Rico. Man, I like it. I love Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a beautiful place. So one of the things that I'm working on a lot of time, for you guys that are new to the live shows, this is an opportunity for one, to interact directly with you guys. Number two, it's an ability for me to work through different videos that may or may not have actually made it to a standalone video. That happens a lot more than you think. And so a lot of times the videos just don't gel. And so I'll talk about a topic on a live show. It's also an opportunity for you guys to see a little bit behind the scenes, get an idea for what it is that I'm working on. And, it's also basically, and my channel, by the way, it is not much more than a background noise generator. So, You know, I don't do a whole lot of editing. I don't do a lot of cuts and clips and stuff like that. It's all just a real person talking in to you. So that's how this channel works as well. Armac saying always want to do a cruise in Puerto Rico, just never had the funds to do it yet. Puerto Rico is freaking beautiful. Love Puerto Rico. So just so y'all know. So the blue bike can't catch a break these days. But I am waiting on the plastics to show up. Hopefully 90% of everything is going to show up here coming this week, with one exception. And it's oddly enough, the least needed thing that I'm waiting on, but the bike is going to look silly without it, but it's these stickers. So when the fairing comes in, it's just going to be a white slab on the side of the bike. Luckily, the lower fairing completely untouched. So I've just got to put a new upper fairing on my lower fairing, which is floating around, I think, up there in the loft. But anyway, I'm not going to dive too deep into exactly all of this because this is going to be in an upcoming video, I think. Should be anyway. But the main thing is just making sure, like what I'm doing right now is I'm putting everything back together. The main idea is just give the bike a solid once over before you jump on it and start ripping on it when the season opens up. I know for a lot of folks, you know, y'all seasons are probably right around the corner. Most of us, it is. I mean, March, April, that pretty much opens the window for a lot of us. But it's an opportunity for you to check the bike out, look at your tires, make sure the tires are in good shape. Again, fluids, hoses, just make sure everything is tight. You know, stuff gets loose over use, and you just want to make sure that everything is as it should be. So, but these Gixxer middleweights are really easy kind of to work on. So luckily I really don't have a whole lot of work cut out for me on these things. It's just pretty much you know, as long as you got your Fonzie, you can get these things put together pretty easily. As long as you keep up with all of your hardware. Let's see. Armac saying, or it's a barbecue smoking noise and stress relief. That is always a good thing. First ride in 2.5 months with the 750. 10 hours of not chill riding. Yeah. I tell you what, I've been having a lot of fun. You can't see her. She's right over here though. But oh yeah, she's right there. Gray bike. That totally impressed with how that bike runs, how that bike handles. The Michelin Power 6s did exceptionally well. And I gotta say, man, you know, it's kind of funny. As the channel kind of ebbs and flows, different bikes will be coming in and other bikes will be going out. And I've got to say, I have got now just such an affinity for these Gixxer middleweights that there's at least 2 of them that I'm pretty sure are going to stay locked in as far as part of the, you know, part of my personal fleet. And that's the blue GSXR 750 and the GSXR 600. And the funny thing about it is that the 600 is, it's so weird. You know, I did that You Can't Go Home video. The funny thing about the 600 for me is that it just keeps getting better every time I ride it. And not that I'm doing anything different. It's just that it's funny. You get away from a bike like that. And for a lot of us, you know, we were brought up as 600s were beginner sport bikes. This is from a period of time where we didn't have, in the States anyway, you know, we didn't have the luxury of having the 400s that were out back in, like, say, the late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s. You get some of the Bandits, but I think the idea is that you didn't have, for a long time, those small kind of like entry-level sport bikes like what we have today. The 600 was a race class back then. And so to call them a beginner bike back then, I mean, look, we used to play with lawn darts, drink out of the hose, and, you know, we didn't even really recognize our parents back then, right? So you can kind of get, well, yeah, it's a beginner bike. It's only 600 cc's, but it'll do 135 miles an hour. But it's funny, when you start to get past that, you look at bikes and you see the power number. And that is the thing that is the trigger for elevation. So let's say you're on a 600 that makes, I don't know, let's say back then 100 horsepower. Well, the 750 at the crank, okay, not at the rear tire, just at the crank, okay. Well, by today's standard, that would probably work out. The only problem is that modern 600s, the two that are left in the States, the GSXR and the CBR, those bikes are making over 120 at the flywheel. And where the 750 would make 120, now it makes about 135, 140 at the flywheel. And so you can see the progression is just a little bit greater nowadays. Like, you wouldn't really want to start off on a 600. They're a lot more rowdy than what they were back when I was a kid. But that being said, you know, these modern 600s are really not beginner bikes, but they were when I was coming up. And so now that I can play with it a lot more and really play, not be, you know, sketched down, and I'm not building upon my skill set. I'm just out exercising a skill set and enjoying the thing and having fun. I know I keep saying this about the 600, and you're going to hear me say this so often that you're probably just going to get sick of hearing it, but it really is so much better than what I remember it to be. And a lot of times you look back and you think, oh, I was so much better at this or whatever back then. And it's kind of fun in a way to look back and go, oh my gosh, I was terrible back then. And I was on a bike that I had really no business being on. And I thought that I knew more than I did. And so I started leveling up, only to find out that when you come back to a bike that's at this level, which, to be fair, is kind of like 750 power, just if you went back in time and transplanted this bike. You know what I'm saying? The idea is that it really is that good, and it remains to be that good. And you know, that's why I've got such a soft spot in my heart for them, is because they are that much fun. And the other thing is this: say what you will about power. You know, we always talk about power as being the kind of the determining factor of the level up in bikes. But I got to tell you guys, that 1000 sitting right back over here, easily the most powerful bike in the garage by a magnitude, orders of magnitude. But I'm actually faster through the twisties on my 750s, and I wouldn't be that far behind, if at all, if I would have been on the 600. So it's kind of funny. You know, it's whatever bike you're the most comfortable with, that's the bike that typically you're going to be the fastest on, regardless of what the power level is. And as great as the 1000 is, it doesn't offer the front end feel that the middleweight Gixxers give. And for me, that's everything. That is everything that is riding the motorcycle, is being on the side of that tire. It's not about being straight up and down and hauling ass, because that's not really exercising a skill set to me. That's just hanging on and make sure you're pointed in the right direction. That's not really a test of talent or a show of talent, at least not in my book. And if it were, it's not set up for that. And because it doesn't have the front end feel of my middleweights, all that extra power just kind of gets lost in either braking harder into corners or just not feeling as comfortable on the bike, because I don't have that direct connection to the front tire the way that I do with my Gixxer middleweights. So yeah, the 1000 is going to be getting moved on. I hate to say it, because I really like that bike a ton. And I put a lot of work, time, effort, and energy into that bike, as well as money. But sometimes you just got to let them go. And that's where the 1000 is going to be going. Let's see. Oh, hang on. Let me scoot back up here, catch up with you guys. Let me see. Oh, you guys are really chiming in here. Okay. Let me see. Oh, RMAX. So what's the story about the drop? Is it at least a cool story from a fuck up or a dang nabbit type of thing? It was a dang nabbit type of thing. So here's the story. Last Sunday, Orange Crush and I were heading out, and I had my bike, my GSX-R 750. I had it sitting right outside the door, idling. I had it on the side stand. It was idling and just getting warmed up, had my jacket on, and I was going to try to get a little bit of an early start out. So, kind of a really picturesque morning, super, super, super foggy. It reminded me of being back in NorCal, and I was kind of excited. It's like, oh yeah, back in my element, sketchy tarmac, which is always kind of a fun thing for me. I'd have been on my S22s, which would have meant that the bike would have been lively, and figured it would burn off mostly by the time I got there. So I'm really looking forward to this, and the bike is idling as they do. But here's the twist. Right outside of that door, the tarmac, it's not exactly flat. It's got the just slightest amount of decline. So bad already. But normally I've had bikes sitting out there idling and never had an issue before. But you never have an issue until you have an issue, right? So I'm standing next to Pearl, and I've got my jacket on. I got my don't have my gloves on yet. I've got my helmet in my hand. And I look over at the bike, and it just starts creeping forward. And so I start hauling ass, going shit, and I didn't get to it in time. And the bike just went bang and fell over. So this is what happened. This is a real drag, but it's not like it just broke the fairing. It broke the whole back end of it off. Great. So what it did was there's a spacer on the left-hand side of the bike that goes right here, that goes through here into the frame. And it's this long metal spacer, and there's a bolt that goes through it. Well, the problem is that is what it landed on. It literally landed on the worst part of this whole assembly that it could land on. Gacked up one of the engine covers a little bit, just scratched it up a little bit. That kind of stuff does not bother me at all. But not having plastics does. So just waiting on that. So it's just one of those things where if it would have happened in here, it wouldn't have happened in here because of the surface, but the damage wouldn't have been as bad. It's just the surface is irregular. It's just kind of gnarly, and it just landed perfectly in a way that it gacked everything up. Yay. So there's your story. But happy accident, I guess you could say, because I was able to get Smokey, aka Shadow, aka she's got all kinds of names, but I was able to get the gray GSX-R 750 out. And that was an eye-opening experience for me, because I was on a bike that, not that I don't know, of course I know the bike, but it's a bike that was on a set of tires that I didn't quite trust as much as I do the S22s or 23s. And it's, the bike does not have any electronic aids, which is fine. That's actually, I prefer that. But it was just kind of an untested bike. And I figured, well, I mean, this is the best we're going to do something. Let's go ahead and, in for a penny, in for a pound, right? And I tell you what, guys, the GSX-R 750 with a 190/55 rear tire with a one down front sprocket is chef's kiss perfect. I mean, it is as good or better than any bike I've ever ridden before in my life. And as a matter of fact, when it comes down to absolute all-time favorite motorcycles that I've ever ridden or spent time with, it's going to be the gray GSX-R 750 by a lot, because that bike, it's got a more Mafia tune on it, or so I'm told. But anyway, it is tuned, and it's claimed that it's more Mafia. It is silky smooth on throttle transition. It's better than the two-wheel Dyno Works tune, which is supposed to be really good for track guys. It's not. It's still choppy by comparison to that gray bike. This thing may end up getting a retune. In fact, it's not a may. It's going to end up getting a retune from more Mafia. Just because the throttle mapping is so good on that gray bike. But even taking that out of it, the balance of the bike was exceptional. I love having the back of the bike up a little bit more. The suspension setup is such that I've got a turn and a half more of preload on the forks on that bike just to make up for the difference in how much it's raked up in the back. And it absolutely put on a show, man. I'm telling you that the pace that I would normally be running on my 1,000, it would not have even been. I would have easily been about 100 yards ahead of myself with the 750 on some of the runs that we're on. Worst case scenario. Best case scenario, I'd have been able to reel me in. Well, shit, it wasn't even going to happen on the straights because, oh, that's another thing. So I had to put a new battery in the gray bike. And what's funny is that I thought that it had jacked up my speedo healer. If you guys remember, I did a video on installing a speedo healer and I used Smokey as the bike to do it because I had re-geared her. Well, that wasn't the case. And I had an indicated speed with the healer in effect with just a very small margin of cushion in the healer to the tune of 2%. I was showing mid 160s on one of the straights. And that equates to, I mean, a bare minimum of about 158 to 161 on some of the back straights on a GPS. So, I mean, that's right in line with where I would have been within a couple of miles an hour of the 1,000. But the whole setup with that bike is so much better. The suspension is so much better. It's much more comfortable. And the way that it feels setting it up, dropping it in, it's so good. Here's the thing. One of the crazy things about the gray bike is that it's so good that I was never sketched out. I was never like, a lot of times when I'm on the 1,000 and I'm really pushing the pace, there's a certain level of focus that you have to get into with a leader bike when you really start to pour the coals to it. And that is what I talk about, that burden of power that you have with a leader bike. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And look, it's adorable to have if you just want to go dead straight. But when you're coming out of corners and you are managing the power as you're standing that bike up, you've got kind of a finite window that you can run that bike through the gears before you've got to get out of it because you're collecting so much speed so quickly. And it's a lot to take in. Well, with the 750, yeah, it's still collecting a whole lot of speed really fast, but it's doing it all the while being sweet to the tires. Brakes are fine. I'm coming into corners hotter and I'm able to carry better corner speed because of the better front end feel. So I'm not into the brakes as hard. There's a lot of things about the 750 that lent itself to allowing me to be smoother, less stressed, quicker, every adjective that you can come up with that makes you safer, happier, goofing off, playtime, all of that was 750. Whereas the 1,000cc, it just feels like I'm going to work to, turn big rocks into little rocks. So that's why the 750 for me, especially with it tuned, pipe, gear, all the stuff, tricked out. Only thing it doesn't have is a 520 chain conversion. I don't know that would make that much of a difference for what I was doing with the bike. But the point is that a fully vetted, kitted out 750 for me is the absolute top of the food chain when it comes to favorite motorcycles. So the blue bike is going to get the same treatment. It's going to get the same tune, not the same brand of tire, but the same size rear tire. A 520 conversion, one down on the gearing, and then the 600 is just going to get a 520 conversion with the stock gearing. And I may or may not ever put an exhaust on that bike because I freaking love my 600 just the way that it is. And here's the other funny thing, and this is something that I don't really know how to address this, so I'll just talk about it here on the live show. But one of the interesting things about the 600 is, interesting. One of the questions is, well, if you've got the 750s, doesn't the 600 feel slow? Man, it doesn't. That's the crazy thing about the 600 is that it doesn't have it doesn't really have a downside compared to the 750. In fact, it's got some advantages where it doesn't have the power. It's got the smoothness. It's silkier to ride. You don't have the power, but you got plenty of power. And remember that the 750 represents a surplus of power. The 600 for me represents the right amount of power for the most part, right? So that's why for the 600, I love them so much. They're kind of a sweet spot for me. Man saying, bro. Deal's asking, how many miles do you think I should hit before going synthetic motor oil on a new bike? 1,000. What I do is I will go the first 600. What I'll actually do is I'll go 250 miles. I'll do an oil change. It's basically a flush. I don't change the filter. At 600 miles, I do a full oil change to dyno oil. And then at 1,000 miles, I'll do the swap to full synthetic. Ryan's asking, does that mean the R1000 is on the chopping block? Kind of does, yeah. Yeah, and look, it's not that I don't like the bike. I love it. The problem with me with the 1000 is that I can't do 1000cc bike stuff with it whenever I want, which is to say, when I'm on that bike, I'm going to be going 170 plus at some point. It's guaranteed. I will be at the top of fifth gear somewhere on that ride. And that's what it is. I mean, you're over 170 miles an hour with that bike, with that gearing at the top of at the top of fifth gear at about 170 plus. And it's interesting, I guess, to do, but I got news for you. 750 will do 170 also. And so it's, okay, but it won't do 180. Okay, well, I've only been 180 a few times. Well, more than a few times. Between the red bike and this bike, here we go. I'm just not up there very often. Maybe once every fourth or fifth time I ride the bike. I mean, I'm going to be at 170 every single time. And it's too frantic on its way to that number. Whereas the middle of the 750s, if you've never ridden the 750 with a Speedo healer and you're pinned, it's stable. I mean, it's almost like riding a little Hayabusa, how stable the thing is. So, I mean, that's about as big of a compliment as you can give if all we're talking about is straight line performance. Start flicking the thing around. Of course, it's nowhere near the same. 750 will eat it alive. But it's the idea that it is inherently so stable by comparison to the 1,000. I keep pointing the wrong way. By the 1,000, that I just don't see a need to have the 1,000 anymore. And it's no sense in having it on the payroll if somebody else could enjoy it. Let's see. Bear with me. Let's slide up in here. Let's see. Bear with me here. Here we go. Oh, Ryan's checking in with Bruce. Bruce saying, I'm 41 years old and not athletic, so not sure if clip-ons are going to work for me. Bro, you got to get in shape. Got to get clip-on shaped. Ryan saying the GSX 1340R in sparkle black. Very nice. See if Moto has the NK800. Saying it is tempting. I like it. I sat on a 675 this weekend when I went to get an oil filter for the 600. Still waiting to get a ride on one. Ryan saying, smash that like, folks. Yeah. Spike the like. Big saying, I need tires bad. Cupping at the front, rear is done. Do I get Road 6 or something with a little more grip with a 190 55-17? I don't ride in the rain. Road 6 isn't a bad tire. I would probably say Power 6 would be a better tire for you. Power 6 is kind of an interesting tire in that I'm not going to say it's not as grippy as an S22. It proved itself to be plenty grippy when I was on it, really leaning on it hard. Pun intended. So I would say power sixes, but road sixes are good too. There's nothing wrong with roadies. Matt saying, for my skill level, an R3 is a surplus of power. I understand that. Armac saying, Professor, I shocked myself with the Busa today and was happily surprised. I was north of 160 and didn't feel like it. I was like, damn, go girl. That what's funny about the Hayabusa is that it is as silky as you could possibly imagine a motorcycle to be. They're so good and they get a bad rap. And I'm sorry for that because golly, I mean, there's certain bikes that just have good vibes about them. And Hayabusas are that bike for me. There's that gray one that it's one of those things where I almost want to put that gray Hayabusa that I did the ride review on. Almost want to put that. I mean, is there any way to put that bike on layaway? I loved riding that bike so much. And there's another stock Gen 3. It's the gray with the red accents. You never know. You never really know. But, you know, I was even talking about putting together a bike for Texas 2K. And for me, I'm not trying to put something together that's, you know, oh, we're going to go 230. And no, it's not like that. It would just be a bike for me to take to Texas 2K to just get out there and run the thing up to, you know, 185, 190 miles an hour. And then you roll out of it and it's, yeah, it was fun. And then, you know, go eat a hot dog or something. I have no delusions of, you know, trying to put together something that's going to be crazy for that. It would literally be that bike with a tune and an exhaust and a filter and just go haul ass. Let's see. Mickey saying, I live in Chicago, which is already a very aggressive traffic and thrive with that. Chicago is crazy. It's beautiful though. Love Chicago. Skids is in. What is up? Felipe is saying hello. Skids saying, that's a nice stable there, B. You still got the Bonnie? Actually, the computer is sitting on the back of the Bonneville. Me smacking that Triumph emblem back here. Armac saying, oh, yeah, Armac. So, Ryan, Armac got him a Busa. Yeah, Mickey, check them out. I mean, they're both good tires. You know, either way you go, you're not going to go wrong. So listen, whatever tire you get the best deal on, if you're not really pushing the pace, then the Road 6 will be fine. They last a long time. Armac saying, hey, Professor, 1000R to a Busa. I bet you'd love it. Hey, listen, just between us, don't tell anybody. But when I rode that gray Hayabusa, again, it's not as fast as the R. Nothing is, though. Okay, that bike, this one, GSX-R 1000 is an apex level predator, period. It is the fastest thing, no matter what you're going to line it up against, when it's set up properly for straight line hauling ass or whatever. It has surpassed the Hayabusa in that role, if you will. But that being said, it's not as good as the Hayabusa for like a litany of reasons. And one of the big reasons that it's not as good as the Hayabusa for what I like when I'm riding a motorcycle is I like stuff that's stable and I like a lot of front end feel. And the Hayabusa is just a big Gixxer middleweight when it comes to that. I'm serious. It really is. And if you just can't sleep, go back and pull that video out of the playlist. I am having more fun on that Hayabusa than I had on the 1000. And one of the fun things about the Hayabusa is that when I'm rolling through the gears, pay attention when I'm getting onto the highway. You know the route. And by the way, riding reviews are going to start back up again here really soon, guys. So get ready. I've got some don't let me forget to tell you about what's coming up with the ride reviews. But anyway, where I'm getting when I exit Calais and I'm coming back up and I'm fanning that bike through the gears, third gear, I'm carrying a slight power wheelie with that bike. I'm only off the ground by maybe, I don't know, 6 inches. Okay. And I'm fanning, you can hear it. And I'm coming over 100 miles an hour and I'm rolling out of the power, and it just comes down super easy. And there's a time while I'm riding it where I'm going, oh, I get it now, or something like that. I forget exactly what I say. And it is like that. Oh, So it's not as fast, but it pulls the way that it just trucks when you roll into the throttle. It feels a lot like a GSXR middleweight, in that it just starts to collect mile an hour without any kind of drama. A la the Kawasaki Concourse, the BMW K1600, and all the rest of these really big bore, bigger, heavier bikes. So would I get a Hayabusa? I don't know. If one of them were to just land in my garage, I wouldn't complain about it. I would have to get a stellar deal on one. And I would also want a third gen. I know a lot of people go, oh my God, a third gen, they don't make as much power. Well, no, they don't. But I don't need that much power when they make all of this luscious torque and about the same peak power stock to stock as a Gen 2. It's just a little bit more of a compact power band, and I really like that. So, again, say what you will about, being able to make a bike faster. I'm just not all that interested in that. I like the bigness. I like the comfiness of it. And, that would be why I would go Hayabusa over the 1000. Again, it's not that I don't love my 1000. It's just that Hayabusa, man, it's a different way of doing business. Let's see. Oh, Felipe is asking, I'm curious about the Hayabusa. How does the weight compare to the GSXR 1000? Is it much heavier? How's the handling? It is like another motorcycle heavier than the 1000. So the Hayabusa weighs about 150 pounds more than the GSXR 1000. It's a bigger bike though. And so a lot of that weight, and by the way, in terms of percentages, that's about 25% more weight, but it's got 30% more cubic centimeters to play with, right? So the handling, they handle fine. They're not going to handle like a GSXR 1000. They do not have the turn in. They don't have any of the, they don't have any of the flickability that you would want in a sport bike if you're just going to go out and slam the thing around, but they're not necessarily incapable of getting out and dragging foot pegs. I mean, there's plenty of guys out there on Hayabusas that have a ball with them. It's just that that's not their primary mission statement. And, they're designed to be parked at about 150 or 170 miles an hour and just eat up tarmac, like Autobahn style. And they're smooth. Oh my God, they are so smooth. Matt saying, as a Yamaha fan, the anniversary Gixxers are pretty. Yes, they are. Armac saying it's more of a touring than a leader bike. It's funny. I don't want a leader because it is too much power, but the Busa is so stable. Well, here's the funny thing. The leader bike is powerful only because it has to be as powerful as possible. You got to remember the Hayabusa is not as powerful as it could be. There's a lot of window there that is left open for, being over-engineered, I guess the best way I'm trying to put it. And the GSXR 1000 is the same way though. I guess what I'm trying to say is that the GSXR 1000 is lean, mean, makes a ton of power, and it is built to a standard of a class-winning blue chip athlete kind of a class. where the Hayabusa is not. It really is more of a, I mean, they make luggage for these things. They're more of a, what they used to call them hyper touring bikes, whatever that means. And, but before that, you know, it was the Hayabusa. That was the bike that you put all the stuff on to just go as fast as possible. And, you know, in a way to this day, they still do. I mean, if you want to build a crazy fast bike, you build a turbo Busa or nitrous Busa or something like that. I would never really be interested in that. But again, it's just such a sweetheart of a bike that you almost don't want to ruin it. And well, the same can be said for any bike, especially bikes that come from the factory with a lot of power, because power, what do they say? Power corrupts. And the thing is that if you get too, how do I say this? If you get too focused on the power that the bike makes, that becomes the overwhelming, overriding characteristic of that bike, right? It's really what precedes that motorcycle. And that's what's up with leader bikes. The R1 out of the group is probably the smoothest. The CBR is probably the purest. The Gixxer is going to have the most attitude, and the Kawasaki's just the Kawasaki. So, but let me get back to you guys. Just keep saying, Armac, your garage is getting full. I'm jealous. I like it. Armac said, if we get another one, I'm getting a Conti with a big bore kit. That'd be an awesome bike. Saying that the local dealerships got the color that she's looking for. Any more bikes, I have to build another garage, which I'm willing to do. I love the Royal Enfields. That's another thing, man. I'm a big fan of the REs, man. I know that, listen, if you got a problem with Royal Enfield, I just don't really know how to address that situation, because I love those bikes. I really do. Cormac saying, let's get a GoFundMe startup for the Busa for the professor. Hey, man, I'll take it. Armac, hey, it's time for an oil change, man. Hey, you got to do the same thing to that bike that I'm doing to these bikes. Check the fluids, get the oil changed, adjust your chain, lube everything up, give it its once over. It's ready to go. Felipe saying, yeah, when I get older, maybe. I don't think I'll be the BMW GS type of rider. I'll stick with an inline four. You know, I tell you what, I'm not a big GS I like certain adventure bikes, but I don't like all of them. I like the littler ones. I like the middleweights. Kind of weird, kind of a theme going on here, but I prefer like the V-Strom over other bikes that might be in the same class. Those are the kind of bikes I kind of graduate to. But that being said, I also really like the Africa Twin. Anyway, I like all of them. I'm just kind of a sucker for any motorcycle though. Bruce saying absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. I tell you what, and it depends on how you want to take that statement, because it's true in a lot of different ways. And here's the thing, going max power absolute with the 1000 kind of ruins it in a way. It corrupts the bike. It becomes the only thing that is really worth talking about. And remember, the more power you have, the more you have to control. And I don't mean like you and your skill set. No. I'm talking about the chassis, the suspension components, the tires. Listen, I would love to keep my 1000, but I can't afford the tires for that bike. I mean, it's over and over and over again. You're replacing rears on that thing. Armac saying, yep, I ain't getting a tune for the Busa, just pipes. Want the Busa to cruise. Kind of a super sport tour, and my 675 is a mean bike with the new lighter rims. I like that. Ben saying, someone's getting a Busa. I'll give it less than 6 months until we see it in here on the channel. Maybe. Listen, I'll put it to you like this. It's like things come up at the dealership where it's like a bike that I can't pass up. That really was the X-Star bike. That was a situation where I really couldn't pass it. It's a bike that I had always wanted. But you know, the 600 came up the same way. The 750 came up like that. So yeah, if there's one of them that shows up and it's just something I can't really live without, then you never know. It might end up coming home with me. I'm like saying, me and the kids touch the bikes monthly. We love the bikes. All the kids got helmets and pants and jackets. Very cool. Armac said I'm eyeballing a Hornet. It's a good bike. I don't really have a downside with the Hornet. I think that it's a cool bike, and I think that, you know, if Honda, here's the thing: if Honda would put a full fairing on that bike, the Hornet 1000, and make it like well, they are doing this sort of with the CB 1000 or whatever it's called, but they detuned even the Hornet. And so that would take a lot of the wind out of my sails with that bike. Man, saying, oh my God, I need to ride in soon. It's like meditation or therapy. It is for most of us, my friend. Armac saying, yeah, Matt, riding and feeling the wind and feeling the ground moving, it is therapy. Saying once I get the visor and get a couple of miles down, I feel like everything just falls away. Very much so. Armac saying, oh, if they did put a full fairing 1000 without the detuning, I'd throw my money at them. I tell you what, you want to talk about a real easy way to part me with like my monies. And I've been saying this for like a hot ass minute now, and it'll never happen. It's kind of a shame, but I'm not the only one that has said this or kind of hinted at this, but maybe the writing is on the wall. So hear me out. It's a Kawasaki. So I know, but hear me out. The Z900 globally is an incredibly successful motorcycle. And that is a legit, say 100 and I don't know, as close as it doesn't matter, say 115 horsepower to the rear tire, 900cc bike, 4-cylinder. Runs good, lots of power. It's a great bike. Y'all remember my Z900 RS Cafe? That was a detuned version of that Z900 engine. Well, as it turns out, Kawasaki is basically putting the Z900 engine in the Z900 RS now. And so that bike is going from, 105 horsepower to basically 115 horsepower to the rear tire as it comes from the factory. And the reason why that has got some folks kind of getting their eyebrows up is, could Kawasaki pull a Suzuki the way that they did with the GSX 8 TT? Is there any way that Kawasaki could rebody preferably the Z900, because you might get you get a Z900 SE version on the RS, but with the GPZ 900 livery, with the half fairing and or the full fairing or whatever. If that bike ever showed up and it had an option for clip-ons, I would probably have to get one. Only because I know how much power you can get out of the thing. And realistically, you can creep those things up to about 126, 127 horsepower at the rear tire. That starts to kind of, it'd be a pretty badass bike. I don't know though. I say that I would maybe consider a bike like that, but considering how much it would probably cost, Busa, but you get the idea. Look, let me just put it to you this way. Why buy a bike that is meant to look like an older bike when you can have an older bike that is sold as brand new? I guess that's the weird thing about me. And I don't, okay, so check it out. I'm starting to see some themes here. Okay, GSXR 750. It's basically a 20-year-old bike. You know that, right? Like people go, oh, it hasn't changed since 2011. 2011? Oh, you're adorable. It hasn't changed since 2006, yo. So, it's just a rebodied version of a 2006 in a lot of different ways. It's still lighter and it does a lot of better things than that bike, but engine-wise, and a lot of the geometry harkens back to that 2006. And I know that because I had one. The Busa, same way, analog clocks. Nothing's really changed on that bike outside of making it Euro 5 compliant, but you take the good with the bad. But that must be why I like Royal Enfield so much too, because they're basically 1967 bikes that are being sold as new. So with fuel injection. So that's, I don't know. I like that older stuff, I guess, a little bit better. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know what people's ideas are right now. Because that, by the way, the car you just heard, I know the car. It's an MR2. It's a supercharged MR2 that the guy has been working on forever, and he finally has got this thing to where it'll run sort of well. I have no idea what all he's done to it. If you don't remember, back in the day, Toyota made a supercharged MR2, and again, that's what that is. It's a red one, and he's been hot rodding it for a while, and they had some problems with it yesterday, so I guess they're out playing around with it. But it's raining right now, or at least it was. That's why you're seeing these towels underneath that door. This place leaks like a sieve when it rains. Armac saying, Armac saying, so what I've been hearing is you're going to Stubbs to see if there's a deal on a Hayabusa. Hold, please. Hold, please. Speak amongst yourselves. Oh, yeah. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving? What the? Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Hang on. Let's see if it's in inventory yet. Are you here? Hold, please. Just bear with me, guys. If you can't see me, I don't know how this picture-in-picture screen thing works. Hold on. Is it showing up on the website? Let's see. Oh, there is a GSX TT in inventory, by the way. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hold, please. I mean, come on. I mean, if you're going to get a Busa, you might as well get a Busa, right? So anyway, we'll see. But there are a couple in inventory right now. And this actually, let me do this. Let me scroll up and get this centered a little bit better. There is an R model up there for sale too. GSX. Okay, there we go. So here's the funny thing. The 2023 on top, that bike is the one that I did the ride and review on. And yeah, that bike I like a lot. But I also like the red, and I like the way that the red pops. Let's take a look at some more pictures of that. Hang on. What's the deal? Come on. There we go. There we go. Looking good with the cowl on the back. Dude, how do you not love that? How is that something you just can't absolutely sign off on? That big O ass on that bike. I love it. Let's see what other pictures look like. And it's stock, guys. It's flat out bone stock. There you go. Anyway, so yeah, that one's got the cowl cover on it, and I'd probably have to go some kind of route like this. But that being said, the bike that I freaking kind of fell in love with, I say that, was this one. This is the one that I did the ride and review on. Not quite as flashy, doesn't have the cowl cover on it. Now let's go back to the other one. I think I'd have to go with that one. It's got a couple thousand more miles on it, but that, or 1,500 more miles on it, but that does not affect me in the least. So anyway, yeah. You know, I don't know. I've got, I'm kind of a sucker for the big body. It's like me with Mopars, man. I like big body Mopars. I like, you know, B bodies more than I like E bodies. So anyway, I guess there's a theme going on here. There we go. I don't know. What do y'all think? Me saying thanks, Thanksgiving, brother. Yes. Oh, Ryan saying, Ryan, review of the GSX TT, please. I will be doing that. So that's one of the next bikes that's coming up. I did ride that bike on the Suzuki demo days, but I didn't get a chance to do a real thorough ride on that bike. I will say this. I don't know what the difference is between the TT and the R and the S and everything else. But I do have to admit that the TT, when I rode it on the demo day, felt really strong. Like it felt stronger than what I would have expected it to feel like. I don't know, might have been throttle mapping or something like that. Our magazine seems like the professor is in love. I know, right? Miki saying, I got to see the Hayabusa ride review. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. It's funny that I'm having so much fun with that bike. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to say this too. One of the funny things is that I'm just like you guys. I don't have, you know, I will have a certain preconceived notion going in to ride a bike, for example. And every time that I've had any, and I mean any kind of negative connotation type thing with a bike and I ride the bike, I end up loving it. That happened with the Street Glide, that happened with the Indian Challenger, and that happened with the Hayabusa in a big way. Oh, Bruce, yeah, it sucks, man. Yeah, the demo days are fun. I liked it. I had fun. Ryan Armac saying a 67 GTX is my dream car, but with a 426 Max Wedge. The Max Wedge is the better engine of any of the the big block Mopar engines. I am a much bigger fan of the Max Wedge than I ever will be of a Hemi. Pat saying, ghosted again. Did I miss you, bro? What happened? Did I skip over, Matt? I got the visor. Talk to me, brother. What happened? Did you get, what, did the thing not post up or something? Armac say the Busa did take 2 takes. Yes, it did. Okay, so the Hayabusa, the student of the show. So the Hayabusa took 2 takes. There were 2 full takes done of the ride and review for the Hayabusa. The problem is one of those couldn't be aired because I was having way too much fun with the Hayabusa. The intrusive thoughts kicked in, and there is, okay, so I was talking about when you exit Calais and you see me on the bike and I'm wee Hayabusa, and you'll see the front of the bike's coming up and it's doing some things. Okay. The first take didn't quite go like that. The first take was a lot more aggressive, and I have a lot of leeway with these bikes that I ride, but even by generous standards, it would not have been presentable. But I will say this. When I got back to the dealership, I damn near bought that bike right after that first take. But anyway, that bike, that's the one where I did a pretty gnarly 2 to 3 power wheelie And that's the one where I entered Calais deeply over 100 miles an hour. And I'm just fanning the bike through the gears, and I'm on the side of the tire, and this is coming out of third. I'm pinned now in third, a little bit on the side of the tire. They handle fine. And the front end is hovering as I'm coming into fourth, and you hear it go, eh. I mean, it's so good. It's so good. And I guess that's why I like them so much. Oh, and that's when I figured out really quickly that the Busa for me, it was the better bike. When it comes to making a lot of power and doing something with that a lot of power, the Hayabusa was going to be the better bike because you do fit more inside of that bike, the way that it handles, how stable that bike is. And it's a lot of power, and you feel like that 150-pound weight deficit is left in the parking lot of wherever you're leaving. It's such a good bike and such a fun bike for me that, again, it gets a bad rap, but it also, I mean, it's so good at the same time that it's just a shame. I don't know. It's got a lot of street cred too, which makes it kind of neat, you know. I would like to say that I own a Hayabusa. Gixxer Thou, though, kind of rolls off the tongue pretty well too. What is that? Oh, the paint can lid. Matt saying, "Will you be my Valentine? You can buy me a Hayabusa, man. We can talk." But no, I tell you what, we are having way too much fun with these Suzukis. And I got to tell you, you know, of the bikes that I've been riding, man, you know I kind of get a little bit of a bad rap for being a Suzuki fanboy, but the problem is that a lot of the bikes that I've been riding have been Suzukis, and they've been fun to ride. And so I just keep gravitating back to those bikes. And that goes all the way back to the V-Strom 800, the GSX-8R, the GSX-8S, the TT, which I'm hoping to bring you guys a ride review soon if it'll quit raining. These are some bikes that are just surprisingly fun, that are using that 776 engine that shouldn't be that much fun and shouldn't be that spirited to ride, as opposed to some of these other bikes that I've ridden that I think are trying too hard or not trying hard enough to be whatever it is that they are. And it also kind of brings into light, you know, I do get an opportunity, and I'm blessed like crazy. And I'm humbled that I get the opportunity to do the ride reviews that I get to do for you guys. But it's kind of weird, you know, I'll ride certain bikes, and it's interesting when you ride, say, I don't know, okay, a Hornet 750, and then you ride a V-Strom 800. They could not be more different than each other. The Hornet's making a significant amount of power more, but it's not, in that type of bike, you know, you don't really notice the power difference as much. Whereas you start getting into these more powerful bikes, you'd think that you'd go, oh my God, this one is so much crazier or faster or whatever, like a 600 versus a 750 or whatever. And it's like, yeah, you can kind of tell the difference, but it's not as big of a difference as you think. And so what I've always tried to convey is that the spec sheets will lie to you. The spec sheet is the biggest liar that's out there when it comes to motorcycles. And just being able to get out there and ride all of these things and have such a cool background of different bikes that I can ride and that I have ridden is neat. But it has definitely led me to know that, you know, spec sheets don't mean anything, and that you got to ride these things to really be able to appreciate them. Ryan, yes, Biker Boys or Torque, very much so. Biker Boys, yeah, Lawrence Fishburne was in that movie. Cam's asking, what is your opinion on Aprilia RS660? Oh, that's a good bike. Okay, Aprilia RS660, here's the weird thing about the 660, okay? The 660 is a major tweener of a bike. You go from like, well, okay. So you have to compare the Aprilia RS660 to like a Triumph Daytona 660 or the CBR 650, bikes like that, right? You've got to compare them to those 100 horsepower bikes. The thing is, though, is that the Aprilia has a nasty habit of being, it's kind of the top of the food chain in that sport bike class of motorcycles. And it's really difficult to find a bike that's better there. But I say it's almost a tweener because it's damn near encroaching into super sport categories with how much power that it makes. And it's not there, but it's damn near there. And because it's a twin and each cylinder is 330 cc's, they develop a lot of torque down low, and like just cruising down the road and you're, buzzing along at highway speeds, you grab some throttle and it's punchy. It's a punchy engine. So it's a fun bike, but it's not going to be overwhelming when it comes to power. And I have heard the stories of guys that when they start riding the RS660, they really kind of fall in love with them. So, it's going to be good, as long as your dealer support is good. That's the main thing, but they seem to be pretty durable too. John is in. Hello, good people. Hello, John. Harmac saying the name Aprilia is on it. It's a great bike. Sorry, just facts. They're going to be badass. Buddy of mine's got RSV4 that I am I'd give that bike a tongue bath. M's asking, hey, have you been to Yamaha Champ School? No, I haven't. I have just been. So I came up riding a lot on dirt, and then I got into street bikes. You just kind of evolve into that. Got fast on the street, started doing, when I moved to California, started doing track days then, and was always up in the mountains and did a bunch of track days. It's more about seat time really than anything else. And I was riding around a lot of guys that were really fast. So I had to get good. But I also had SCCA experience up to that with the cars. As a matter of fact, Foxy in fact, it's still set up for it, spent most of its life on autocross courses. But we had the blimp base basically down here, but I did closed circuit stuff for years. So yeah, that's really where a lot of my racing came from too, was with cars or track stuff. Matt's saying my friend has an RS660. He used to race in Wira on a bigger duck, 918. Oh yeah, they're really good. They're great bikes. Oh, M's, yeah, Fox body for autocross. That's badass. Yeah, that's this one right here. Matter of fact, this isn't the only thing that we used for autocross. My Lightning was, I would put on a show with my Lightning on autocross tracks. Once traded a video game skin for a 93 5.0 Fox. Nice. I love the 5.0s, man. The funny thing about these cars, though, and I've got to get this one sorted out. My dad had this car set up for autocross, and it is sketchy to drive on the road. It's just real twitchy. So I got to get the alignment sorted out for that. But this one's 351 AFR heads, FCAM 17s. It's an old school build. It was originally set up for a supercharger, and then that plan got squashed because it was so much fun to drive, just naturally aspirated. Oh man, we're over an hour. Guys, with that, I have got to get back to work. I got to get this bike sorted out. Then I'm going to be filming the put back together for the red bike. Lost some of the footage on the oil change, so that ain't going to make it. So we're just going to do the putting it back together, basically going through and nut and bolting and checking everything out. But with that, I've got to wrap it up. Bruce saying the Fox body is the best looking Mustang body. I got introduced to them in the movie Menace to Society. Yep, that's another one. But with that being said, guys, hey, listen, appreciate y'all hanging out with me. Get out there and do something cool for somebody because chances are they need it way more than you know. Well, with that, I'm checking out. Y'all are great one. Take it easy.